Bob Costas is an award-winning broadcaster. He's had his own late-night talk show, a book on the New York Times bestseller list, and he's hosted almost every major sporting event on television. He's regarded by many as the authority on sports in America. We wanted to find out if he's an authority on food as well, so we invited him to join us at a corner table. But he didn't choose a fancy restaurant. No, Mr. Costas felt much more comfortable. Where else? In a ballpark. Well, Bob Costas, our corner table guests, have taken us to some of the finest restaurants in America.
And what that's are we doing the case here today.
What are we doing here in Milwaukee?
Well, I've been in virtually every ballpark in America, and I may not be the #1 expert to compare the finest cuisine in America or other parts of the globe. But if you want a comparison of ballpark cuisine, you've come to the right place.
Good.
And I'm about to tell you that the Bratwurst with secret stadium sauce at Milwaukee's County Stadium is bar none the finest ballpark eating you'll find anywhere in America. Whatever's in second place is like second place to Secretariat in the Belmont. It's closer to 10th than it is to first. This is numero uno right here.
All right, so ordering, what do we want?
We want a brat with sauerkraut and plenty of secret stadium sauce.
All right, we can take care of that.
All right, thanks, Lucille.
So that's actually what it's called, secret stadium sauce.
Absolutely. She's dipped it in the secret stadium sauce.
Right.
Now she'll go to the sauerkraut. And then we can move over to the condiment stand and lather on some mustard if we'd like.
Milwaukee County Stadium, the parking lot, I understand, is the tailgate center of all of baseball. Are you now, or have you ever been, a card-carrying tailgater?
I've not been somebody who instigates it. You're not I don't have the recreational vehicle, but I've been known to drop in on the tailgaters. When we used to do the baseball game of the week, Tony Kubek and I, on Saturday afternoons on NBC, some of the games would be here in Milwaukee, and you'd get here 9, 10 o'clock for a 1 o'clock game, and they'd already be out there with the grills fired up, and sometimes they'd recognize us and say, "Hey, Bob, Tony, want a brat? Want a cheeseburger? Have a beer?" You know, there's nothing like a beer at about 9 a.m., you know? You know, Lucille, you've done a fine job. There's a very nice head on this beer. You poured it in fine shape.
This is going to be the first one I've ever had, so let's head to the game.
We're out of here.
Well, Bob Costas, set the scene here at Milwaukee County Stadium.
Well, the rain has fallen early in the Wednesday afternoon game between the Giants and the Brewers, and what better way to fill a rain delay? Actually, what better way to fill even activity during the game itself than with the Bratwurst, which, in my mind, is the single best ballpark item.
I have to have a bite.
Mustard?
This will be,
Mustard?
Yeah, I'll have a little mustard.
Now, the best stadium mustard, with all due respect, you're not going to get to eat this till I'm done. This, as you see, is the authentic stadium mustard, but I imported this from Cleveland.
In your bag. Got this through customs.
Right, at the old stadium in Cleveland.
Let's put a little on for me.
There's a dispute in Cleveland whether this is the authentic stadium mustard or, and this is very, very good stuff.
Thank you.
Right there. Is that enough? Okay.
I need more on the top.
You need more on the top? Here you go. So you got the secret stadium sauce, the sauerkraut, and the authentic stadium mustard. However, the folks at Bertman's in Cleveland, they claim that they are the authentic Cleveland mustard. So just to avoid a lawsuit, there's a big dispute by Lake Erie as to which is your top ballpark spread. Have at it.
Let me ask you, before I take my bite, because I'm going to need a good long story during the bite, what do you remember about the first time you came here and had one of these? You're such a fan of the past of baseball.
The first time I came here and had a brat was during the 1982 World Series between the Cardinals and the Brewers. Game 3 was on a Friday night, and I just had one, but that really got me started. Game 4 was a Saturday afternoon game, back when they played afternoon World Series games.
Right.
I did the pregame and postgame, so that left me free during the game itself.
To eat.
And I had 6 brats during that game. Now, that may not be the record, but pound for pound, when you only check in at about 145, that's some major eating.
That's wonderful.
So what is it about these bratwursts that would make Bob Costas travel all the way to Milwaukee just for a bite? We decided we had to find out. So we headed downtown to Usinger's, a landmark in Milwaukee where they've been cooking all kinds of German sausage for more than 100 years. Fritz and Deborah Usinger are the 4th generation to run their family business. It began when their great-grandfather came to America from Germany and opened this store in 1880.
The marble counters, everything's always been here, and we've just never changed it, and it just has such a nice charm and ambiance to it.
So what is it that drives this city to have such devotion for bratwurst?
I guess it's the spices that are in them.
It's the bratwurst capital of the world, I think.
I think we got a little bit more sophisticated taste.
Talk about sophistication. These guys, dressed up as sausages, are a highlight of every Brewers game. They run a sausage race right before the 7th inning. And the fans, they love it. The bratwurst is Bob Costas' ballpark food of choice. But because he's traveled to every ballpark in America, we asked him about some of his other favorites.
You know, in Chicago, both Wrigley Field and the new and old Comiskey Park, the food was always very good. Dodger Dogs in Los Angeles, pretty good. Fenway Franks, not bad. Cuisine at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, pretty good.
I heard they have fried ravioli at Busch Stadium in St. Louis.
They may in the Stadium Club. I don't know if you can get it at the concession stands. But toasted ravioli is actually a St. Louis delicacy, which I think started at the World's Fair in 1904. You know, the ice cream cone and the idea of putting a hot dog in a bun came out of the World's Fair in New York in 1904.
It didn't start at a baseball game. Now, how about bad baseball food, bad stadium food around town? I have one good example, but I want to see if you can think of something you really think is.
Well, I'm not saying that the quality of it is bad, but to me, you know, I enjoy sushi. I'll have some sashimi. I want that wasabi sauce. I enjoy it. But no, not at a ball game. Not at a ball game.
Absolutely.
You know, if I go to Mr. Chow's, I'm not ordering bratwurst.
No,
and if I go to the ballpark, I don't want the sushi.
I'm not going to stand in line for taro tuna. I'm just not going to do it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Some thoughts on heavyweight champ Evander Holyfield.
They ought to just have a team of scientists study his neck and how it is that the trunk of that thing connects to his shoulders.
We're at Milwaukee County Stadium with Bob Costas, who introduced me to his favorite ballpark bite, bratwurst. But before we let him go, we asked him to do what he does best. Give us a play-by-play on the star athletes appearing on the show today.
Let's start with Joe Torre.
Joe Torre and I have had a few very fine Italian dinners in both St. Louis and in New York. He is as decent a fellow as you'll ever come across in sports. He exudes a quiet kind of strength. I think he has the respect of his players, the respect of people in the media. It's great to see him be successful this way so late in his baseball career. Even though he'd been a 9-time All-Star player and regarded as a good manager, he had had more games as a manager and as a player without ever making it to the World Series than almost anyone in baseball history, and now it seems like they punch his ticket to the World Series every year.
Now, how about the great skaters? Scott Hamilton, Tara Lipinski, Chrissy Yamaguchi, from a fan standpoint and to their sport.
Well, great artistry in what they do, and I think that they're part of a generation or generation and a half of skaters that have taken the sport more mainstream. It used to have kind of a cult following. Because it televises so well, it's really the centerpiece of the coverage of the Winter Olympics. And once the popularity of that took hold, then any number of things spun off of it, exhibitions as well as actual competitions that are televised in prime time. And they're part of the group of people that help to popularize the sport.
Now to the squared circle, boxing,
yeah.
And the great multiple heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield.
Here's a guy who was a natural, I guess, light heavyweight. Bulked himself up
Cruiser, 190.
Bulked himself up into a heavyweight. They ought, when he dies, if he's willing to do this, they ought to just study his neck. They ought to just have a team of scientists study his neck and how it is that the trunk of that thing connects to his shoulders.
He doesn't really have a neck. He has a body and a head.
It's Paul Bunyan couldn't uproot it. Well, he's an unusual guy to do what he did. To have the kind of dedication he's had to build his body that way, and just also to get in the ring. Anybody who gets in the ring has to be a different breed of cat.